We're going to plant a bald and burlap Japanese maple, but this works the same for any bald and burlap tree. We've dug the hole about twice as wide as the root ball, and we're attempting to dig it exactly the same depth as the root ball, but because that's hard to judge, we've put a little cone of loose potting soil or loose fill material in the bottom of this hole so that it will, when we put the plant on it, we can twist it and make it go down to just the right elevation. So Scott is going to put the Japanese maple into the planting hole now with all of the burlap intact, and you'll notice there are a lot of roots coming out the bottom of the burlap, and that's why we don't remove burlap even when you have the burlap showing no roots. There can be root hairs embedded in the burlap, and if you remove the burlap, it will actually harm the plant. He's orienting the plant so that the tip is pointing out over the rock the way we want it. He's got it to the right height. And now he's going to take apart the root ball. He already cut the string, so you didn't have to wait through that part of the process. And now he's going to inspect the root collar to see where the roots come out from the trunk, and he's going to remove back some of that soil to show you that's really where the roots begin to attach to the trunk, so it is at the right depth to have that piece of the trunk where it flares out right at the soil level. You want to be sure not to bury the trunks in deep bark, because that will promote wetness, and wet right against the trunk will actually rot the bark. Roots are meant to be underground, bark is meant to be above ground, so just keep that in mind. Now he's putting the burlap down into where it will just get buried. Now the key is to water, and we do this before we backfill the plant. If you don't fill that hole with water before you backfill, the plant itself could be dry inside the root ball. That's impossible to know. Many times it looks wet on the top, but it may be dry inside. And by just soaking the ground that it's sitting in and the root ball itself, it will make sure that everything gets completely wet, and that you're not planting into dry soil that will suck the water away from the roots. So we do a really thorough watering at this stage of planting, and then we backfill, and then we'll actually water again. Okay, and now we've let the water drain away and we're backfilling. And we check to make sure the tree's still in a nice straight position so that it's oriented the way we want and at the right angle. And now we just backfill, and Scott will make sure there's no air pockets and just sort of tamp in a bit around the sides once he's got the material in. And then we will water one more time, rake it out, and there's really, in most places, unless you're on a steep slope where there'd be runoff problems, there's no need to make a big ring around a tree. It's also one of the main problems of using drip irrigation in order to plant a tree, because you're giving a wet spot the size of a dinner plate to something that needs a wet spot more like the size of 4 or 5 kitchen tables instead of one dinner plate. So that's my argument against drip irrigation when it comes to trees, is that you simply don't provide enough, except for a very immature plant. An infant plant will get plenty, but by drip. But once it's trying to mature and actually grow, it takes so many emitters to possibly feed one tree, that it's kind of questionable as a horticultural practice for trees. But now that tree is perfectly planted, it just needs to get one more watering, and that will do it.